My dear, no one taught you how to accumulate wealth. From a young age, you were taught to be useful. And there's a reason why those two things aren't the same. I'm 73 years old. I own 8 mansions, 15 businesses that I no longer need to manage personally. More financial security than I ever thought possible for a woman who at one point didn't even know the interest rate on her own mortgage. And here's what I need you to understand before we go any further. I didn't build any of this because I'm smarter than you. I built it because I finally stopped doing something I've been doing my entire adult life without realizing it. The first thing I want to tell you is what I was doing wrong. For 40 years, I confused working hard with building something. Those are not the same thing. I did not know that. No one had ever said it to me that clearly, and I wonder sometimes whether that was an accident. I started working at 19. I was reliable, diligent, the person everyone counted on. I said yes to every shift, every favor, every request that came without additional pay. I wore that availability like a medal. I thought being needed meant I was valuable. I thought being valuable meant I was secure. It took me 4 decades to understand that those two things have almost nothing to do with each other. Being needed is not the same as being secure. I said that to a woman in her 50s once, and she went very quiet for a long time. Here is what was actually happening during all those years I believed I was getting ahead. The company I worked for was building assets. My husband was building equity in his professional reputation. I was building a reputation for saying yes. A reputation does not compound. I did not know to ask myself that question then. I am asking it for you now. My marriage ended when I was 41. I will not spend time on the reasons. What matters is the morning after, when I sat down alone at a kitchen table with a folder of documents I had never fully read. I did not know what we owned outright. I did not know the interest rate we were paying. I did not know what was in my name and what was in both our names. I had trusted that love was a financial plan. I do not say that with bitterness. I say it because I have since met hundreds of women who are doing exactly the same thing right now, and they do not know it. That folder terrified me. Not because the information was complicated, because it revealed that I had been a participant in my own financial life without ever being a decision maker in it. There is a difference. Most women I have known were never taught to see it. Now here is the part that rearranged everything I believed. This is where the story turns. I had spent my entire life thinking that my qualities were my assets. Kindness, generosity, availability, reliability. I had those in abundance. What I did not have was assets. An asset holds value, generates return, and grows without requiring all of your time to maintain it. I had spent 40 years being generous with my time, my energy, my expertise, and my emotional reserves, and I had built almost nothing that would continue to exist the moment I stopped maintaining it. The moment I stopped, it stopped. That realization, sitting at that kitchen table at 41, cost me nothing to understand and would have been worth a fortune at 25. What I changed first was not my income. It was my relationship to the word no. I had said yes my entire adult life because I believed that saying no would make me less valuable, less loved, less needed. What I learned is that every yes I gave to someone else was a no I gave to my own future. My time was finite. My energy was finite. I had been distributing both as if they were unlimited, as if my own future did not need any of it. This is where I have to tell you something that most people leave out of this kind of story. The thing that kept me from learning about money was not stupidity. It was performance. I had been performing competence around money for decades to avoid the embarrassment of not knowing. If a term confused me, I nodded. If something was explained too quickly, I stayed quiet. I had built a very convincing exterior of a woman who had things handled, and behind it I understood almost nothing about how money actually moved. That performance cost me enormously. Not in dollars I lost, in years I did not build. I bought my first property alone at 43, a small duplex. I was frightened. I did not feel ready. I remember thinking I needed to know more before I moved forward. And then I stopped and asked myself how long I had been waiting to feel ready and where that waiting had left me. The fear does not go away. You stop waiting for it to leave. 4 years later, I bought a second property, then a third. I made real mistakes with real money and real consequences, and I learned from every one of them in a way I never learned from reading about it. The third thing I changed was harder than buying the first property. I stopped being the financial cushion for people in my life who had not built their own. I had a deep, old habit of absorbing other people's emergencies. A family member who needed help, a friend who was struggling. I helped because it felt like love. It felt like strength. I was strong for everyone except myself. And when my own emergencies came, there was nothing in reserve. Generosity without limits is not a virtue. It is a pattern, and patterns have a cost that shows up later when you are least prepared for it. By 60, I had built something real, not because I was exceptional, because I had finally, at an age that embarrassed me, started treating my own financial life with the same seriousness I had always given to other people's comfort. I started showing up for my own future the way I had spent decades showing up for everyone else. The properties grew. The businesses I started generated income that did not require me to be present every hour. I learned what it felt like to have money working instead of only working for money. That distinction sounds obvious. It took me 4 decades to understand what it felt like from the inside. Wealth is not built in the dramatic moments. It is not built in the year you finally get serious. It is built in the small, repeated choices made quietly over time. By women who decide to understand their own finances rather than delegate that understanding to someone they love. By women who learn to tolerate the discomfort of not knowing, of asking anyway, of moving before they feel completely ready. Waiting to feel ready is one of the most expensive habits a person can have. I know the cost of it precisely. I do not tell you any of this to make you feel behind. I tell you because wherever you are right now, the distance between here and a fundamentally different relationship with money is shorter than you have been led to believe. But it requires something from you that no one is going to ask you for directly. It requires that you stop being more available to everyone else's future than you are to your own. I wonder sometimes how many women are sitting exactly where I sat at 41, capable, hardworking, completely unprepared for their own independence. And I wonder whether what stops them is the complexity of money or whether it is something much quieter. The belief that understanding wealth is somehow in conflict with being the kind of woman they have always tried to be.